happy day. It's a happy day. College football is back. It's week 0. I don't really care. College football is back. Meaningful football is back. It's Jake with Eagle Eye. You know me. I've been doing this. Haven't talked to you guys on the podcast for probably 3 months. NBA Finals-ish timeline. Very, very happy to get back on the mic. Obviously, we are talking college football. We have a very short slate this week. I'm actually going to go through every single game just because I had the time. I'm not going to do this every single week because obviously eventually we're going to be playing over 100 games on Saturday. That's right. We are going to have so much football. It's going to be coming out of your ears. Everyone should be super excited. I'm super excited. So let's hop into this slate. It's kind of ugly, but let's bear with it. So game 1 is going to be an 11 o'clock start. It's going to be Austin Peay at Western Kentucky. The Hilltoppers, a 26.5 point favorite. The total of that game, 66.5. Western Kentucky last season, 43.1 points per game, was good for second in NCAA Division I FBS. However, it's the end of the Bailey Zappa era. He has moved on to the NFL, and they're going to be bringing in the Governors, AP, Austin Peay. They have not won an FBS game since 1987. They're 0-15. They've come within 5 scores just once. They're going to be replacing a quarterback, top 2 running backs, 3 out of their 4 receivers. Really, the only bright side here is that they were number 2 in the FCS with 19 interceptions last year, so maybe their defense gets after a new quarterback. Like I said, should get a lot of run. This is the top passing offense from a year ago. They start over without Bailey Zappa. He set all the NCAA records last year with yards and touchdown. His replacement's a D2 transfer out of Western Florida. This Austin Reed kid, I don't know a ton about him. Seems to be a little bit more of a dual threat. They do lose their top 2 receivers, but the backfield is still intact. This game, Austin Peay is taking a huge step up in class, even if it's only to the Conference USA. I'm going to say Western Kentucky minus 26.5 is probably my lean on that one. In game number 2, we're going to be heading across the pond. We get some football in Dublin, Big Ten football in Dublin on a Saturday morning. It's going to feel right. It really is going to feel right. We get Nebraska and Northwestern. Right now, the boys in Corn, 11.5 point favorites. The total of this one, 51.5. Feels a little high in my opinion. I'm actually going to be riding with the under for a few reasons. Nebraska, they went crazy in the transfer portal. Scott Frost is definitely coaching for his job, and he's kind of scrambling to try to find some pieces because they do need to fill a lot of spots. Adrian Martinez is gone. He is done. There's been a little bit of quarterback controversy, but it seems like Casey Thompson is going to end up getting the start, which, okay, he's not a super exciting guy. It's just another white guy under center in the Big Ten, so I wouldn't get too excited about them putting up points. Having 19, 20, 21, 22-year-old guys going halfway around the world to play their first meaningful football in almost 9 months feels like a slow pace to me. I'm going to go under 50.5. Right now it's sitting about 51.5, so you'll get a better number than I did. Third game is going to be an interesting one. I look at Coach Marcus Arroyo for UNLV, and this is a flex spot for him. They're 21.5 point favorites at home against Idaho State. Total right now is about 52. Despite a 2-10 record last year, the Rebels do have a lot of optimism. They split their last 4 games. They haven't won a home opener since 2016. Like I said, Marcus Arroyo, I think he's on thin ice right now, and this could be a spot where he says, hey, you know, this team, they are way inferior to us. We're going to go out and kick their ass. State, they're a really bad team. They returned Tyler Vanderwall at quarterback. He played in 3 games before having a season-ending injury. He threw 2 touchdowns, 3 picks. This O-line gave up 39 sacks last year, so he could absolutely be running for his life. Top 2 backs transferred. Top 2 receivers are gone. To me in this game, it's an under lean at 52. It's also a lean on UNLV at minus 21.5. We get more Big Ten football in our next game with Illinois playing host to Wyoming. This is going to be an interesting game. Brett Bielema is in his second year coaching for the Illini. I do expect a pretty big jump for them. Bielema wants to run the ball. That's exactly what's in his blood. Obviously, I'm a Badger fan, so I remember our years with him. He loves to pound the rock, and he's going to have the opportunity to. Wyoming allowed 181 rushing yards per game last year. They lose 10 of their 15 top tacklers. This is going to be a very, very rough defense. The Illinois Illini should be able to do whatever they want against this front seven. Offensively, they get their quarterback. They transfer in Tommy DeVito, the kid from Syracuse last year, had 3,700 yards, 28 touchdowns. You can't really expect anything, or can't ask for anything better out of a quarterback in the Big Ten. So if he can mimic anything near those numbers, they'll definitely be happy. You get 4 starters back on the offensive line. The defense returns 5 of their top 7 tacklers, including 6 starters, and these guys only allowed 18.8 points per game in the Big Ten last year. Top 3 rushers are back. They averaged 174 yards per game last year. Like I said, I think they're going to try to play big boy football here. Wyoming lost a lot of players to the transfer portal. Man, I cannot say that word. Eventually I'll be able to. But I'm going to lean actually Illinois first half -8 in this one. Obviously for the game, -14 is not bad. You keep that outside of if it gets outside 14 to 14.5 and 15, I would probably stay away from that. But if Wyoming does get some late run and it gets under 14, I think that's a great play. Next up, we get the UConn Huskies facing Utah State. UConn, a Power 5 team, is a 26.5 point dog. They were the laughingstock of the Power 5 last season. 0 FBS wins. Coach Randy Edsall literally quit during the season. Now it's going to be Jim Mora Jr. You know, is it going to be better? This team, they were 129th in scoring, and they allowed 38.5 points per game. They do return the majority of their offensive skill players. They're going to add quarterback transfer Taquan Roberson. For those of you who watched the Penn State-Iowa game last year and had Iowa money line, that is the man that won us all that money. God bless him. So he's going to be taking over there. The Aggies, they're a non-Power 5 conference or non-Power 5 team that everybody's got on their radar. They dismantled San Diego State 46-13 in the Mountain West title, moved on to face Oregon State and knock them out in the Louisiana Bowl. They're getting back quarterback Logan Bonner. They're getting running back Calvin Tyler Johnson, and they're getting 4 or 5 starting O-linemen. They do, however, lose their top 3 receivers. Those guys accounted for 3,300 yards and 31 touchdowns. That is an absolutely massive hit. This line's at 26.5 right now. I think it's going to get north of 27 with the public fading UConn. So once that thing crosses that threshold of 27, I think you hit the Huskies. I think Mora is going to turn this program around, not immediately, but a 26.5 point favorite or dog. It's just a tough look. I do think UConn hangs in there. So give me the Huskies plus 27 or better. Florida State and Duquesne is the next game. Florida State right now, 43.5 point favorites. Total is going to be 56. I don't love this game. Immediately your brain thinks Florida State, Jacksonville State a year ago, but Duquesne's not that squad. This team lost 5 top receivers from a year ago. This offense is going to be pretty abysmal. The defense is okay. They faced TCU last year and got smoked. They did beat Ohio. So it's kind of a tough thing. In Florida State, it's a mixed bag. You don't know what you're going to get with this squad. However, you know, in Norvell's offense, they produced 37.7 points per game over the last 2 seasons. There is a new defensive coordinator for Duquesne. However, 43.5 points is just a lot. This is going to be a game that I'm going to completely lay off. If I had to lean, I would say the under is probably going to be the play, with Florida State winning this thing like 49-0. We get an interesting one with FAU as 7.5 point favorites against Charlotte. That total is 59. Willie Taggart, he's underperformed in 2 years after Lane Kiffin dipped out of FAU. He's had back-to-back 5-win seasons. However, they're going to return 12 starters this year. The majority of their offense is back. Charlotte, defensive disaster last year. Allowed 34 points per game. They ranked worst versus the absolute worst team versus the pass. They lose their top 4 tacklers. They allowed 465 yards per game. FAU, they've had a lot of optimism in their last 4 games. They, however, did allow 35 points per game and lost all 4. Offensively, it's going to be N'Kosi Perry's 6th year in college football, so he should be a solid quarterback. They do return 4 O-linemen, 4 of their top 6 receivers. Last year, this game was a 38-9 W for Florida A&M. This one should be a little bit tighter, but still, I'm going to lean the over. I think there's going to be a little bit more points scored on the other side this year. I think it's a little bit more balanced. I would lean over here. Again, this isn't a full play, but it is a lean. This next one is going to be a game I'm officially betting. It's UNC minus 42.5 against Florida A&M. Total in that one's 56.5. A&M among the HBCUs starting to show some promise. However, this is going to be quite the step up in class for them. UNC, they're moving on from Sam Howell. This is a tough time for them. However, this line is doing some dancing. This thing opened up at 34.5, and now it's all the way up to 42.5. With that movement, I'd usually stay away, but I'm looking at it more. Quarterback Drake May is going to get the start for UNC. However, he may have a short leash. There's no running back on the roster right now with a collegiate start. They lose running back British Brooks. He's out for the year. That dude averaged 9.5 yards per carry last year. It's going to be very difficult for this UNC offense to get cooking early, in my opinion. A&M is going to feature one of the best defenders at the FCS level in recent memory, Isaiah Land. This dude is an absolute freak. He had 19 sacks last year, 25.5 tackles for loss. Both led the FCS. The Rattlers ranked top 26 in 15 different defensive categories. Call me crazy here, but I like FAMU, man. Give me A&M plus 42.5. That is a shitload of points for a mostly rebuilt UNC roster. I think that's a great game. That'll be one of my official plays for the weekend. As we head into some of the night games, North Texas minus 1.5 at UTEP, 54.5 point total. The Mean Green have won this matchup 5 straight times, including a 20-17 win last season. They had an interesting start, 1-6 before ripping off 5 wins to get themselves to the Frisco Classic. This streak did include wins over an undefeated UTSA and a win over this UTEP Miners team. UTEP, an opposite start. They started with a 6-1 season. They then lose 5 of their last 6. So a complete flip of how we saw these two teams. North Texas, they had the 5th ranked rushing attack in 21, but they do lose their top runner, DeAndre Torrey. He rushed for over 1,200 yards per game. The bright side, they return 5 of their next top rushers and 4 starting offensive linemen. UTEP, they did lose quarterback Gavin Hardinson, but they will have a couple of guys that are going to be vying for that starting spot. It should be interesting to see who's going to get a lot of run. They do lose 2 top receiver targets in Cowling and Garrett, who had 2,000 yards and 120 receptions. That is not a small order to replace. The Mean Green rushing attack, they're going to see the best front 7 in Conference USA. There's going to be 8 returning starters. 8 of the top 10 tacklers are back for UTEP. For me in this one, I'm leaning under 45.5. UTEP has no explosiveness with the guys that they lost. UNT is going to just milk the clock in this one. I do like this under 54.5. 2 games to go as we've got Nevada laying 8.5 at New Mexico State. This one a 48-point favorite. The Sharps all over the Aggies here as we get new head coaches on both sides. Nevada's Jay Norvell split for Colorado State. Took a bunch of key players with him. Kind of a dick move, but that's the world we live in. They also are going to have to replace quarterback Carson Strong and my guy Romeo Doubs, who led a 6th ranked passing attack. The offense should be more run-heavy. I'm going to kill this name. I believe it's Tua. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm sorry. He's returning 732 yards at almost 5 yards per carry, so he should be solid as a senior. Defensively, this is where a lot of guys followed Norvell. They're going to have a lot of holes to fill in the front 7. However, they did beef up an already solid secondary with Michigan transfer Darian Green. Sounds like New Mexico State, they're going to have a few guys under center, and I always like to say if you've got 2 quarterbacks, much less 3, you've got no quarterbacks. They're going to, this is going to be an interesting group because they lost their top 2 receivers to the portal. Their top guy has 7 career receptions. It's a senior by the name of, I believe it's Justice Powers. Don't even know. I had to really look that guy up. 7 total catches, is number 1 on the depth chart. Their defense, they do return 8 starters, but they allowed 40 points per game last year. I'm going to lean Nevada as a money line parlay piece in this one, as I don't love them on the road to cover over a touchdown line. However, the money line, you pair it with the right team, and you could have something special there. And then, of course, the nightcap in Hawaii. We always love going to Hawaii late night. They get Vanderbilt, who is a 9-point favorite against the Rainbow Warriors. 54.5-point total. Timmy Chang, college football legend Timmy Chang is going to be the new head coach at Hawaii. I love that. They look to spook Vandy, who lost 23-3 against ETSU in week 0 a year ago. Vandy, they are going to return their entire line and top 2 rushers from 21, but outside of that, that's the only positive that we see. Hawaii, they've won 7 straight openers, 3 straight against the Power 5. You're going to be a wet blanket if you're betting against the Rainbow Warriors in week 0. I am taking Hawaii the +9. Give me that. You're probably going to see a run on Hawaii. That thing could get down. It's going to get dangerous if it really gets down to +7. I mean, I don't know if I'd take it at that, but I do like it at 9. So that'll wrap it up, man. That's week 0. I'll be back with some more select picks for week 1. And as always, stay sharp.